Hey people, Phatty Lumpkin here, and today we're going to hit up some of the faded 80s restaurants we used to enjoy, but before I begin I would like to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Now let's get to the table. The first Bennigan's store opened in Atlanta in 1976. By the early 1980s, they were everywhere. Among the most successful mid-range casual dining chains in America, Bennigan's was gaining ground quickly. The 1980s were a hit for Bennigan's, whether it was their cheesy potato skins or the iconic Irish Tower onion rings. After that, things turned sour. During the early 1990s, Metromedia Restaurant Group acquired Bennigan's. The chain failed to distinguish itself from competitors such as Chili's and TGI Fridays because of increased competition. It was not surprising when Metromedia filed for bankruptcy in 2008. One analyst told the Associated Press at the time that Bennigan's was the weakest player among the major players. A decade ago, Bennigan's 200 national locations shuttered, but its new owners now run a much smaller operation based in Dallas, Texas, where you can still order the awesome items that were on the menu in the 1980s. Sambo's is a combination of the names of two of the founders, Sam Battistone and Newell F. Bonnet. However, this term is also used derogatorily to refer to Black Americans, which contributed to the chain's failure. In the late 1970s, Sambo's had more than 1,100 restaurants in 47 states, reaching its peak of popularity in 1957 in Santa Barbara, California. However, as Sambo's grew in popularity, scrutiny increased, and protests against discrimination quickly followed. As a result, several locations ended up being renamed No Place Like Sam's and Jolly Tiger. The problem was that it was already too late. By the middle of the decade, Sambo had shut down. Despite its small-town beginnings in 1960s Ohio, Red Barn grew into a major label. The chain had roughly 400 restaurants in 19 states during its first 20 years of operation and served its famous burgers and fried chicken in 19 states. The business was purchased in 1979 by new owners for real estate purposes. Since the chain died slowly over 10 years, children of the 80s were able to eat Barn Buster burgers and the Big Barn. Despite this, Red Barn went out in 1989 without a bang. Lum's was famous for its beer-steamed hot dogs in the early 80s, and if hot dogs weren't your thing, there was always the Ollie Burger to satisfy you. Founded in Miami in the mid-1950s, the chain grew into a nationwide phenomenon, with more than 400 restaurants at its peak during the 1970s. The chain overextended in its franchise efforts after being acquired by a Swiss holding company in 1982 and went bankrupt. The original Lum store closed in 1983. A single storefront in Nebraska hung on for dear life, but it too closed in 2017. You probably attended at least one birthday party at Showbiz Pizza Place if you were a kid in the 1980s. In addition to watching a show, playing arcade games, and eating not super excellent pizza, kids were greeted by an animatronic hillbilly bear nicknamed Billy Bob. In 1984, Showbiz purchased Chuck E. Cheese, a similar style pizza place that went bankrupt. The name Chuck E. Cheese became synonymous with all locations by the early 90s. That is going to conclude this video. If you liked it, be sure to click that button like you did your parents' last nerve when you were growing up in the 80s. Again, I am Phatty Lumpkin, and we'll see you on the flippy.